Alright guys, in this video, we are going to go over some of our fraction learning from this year. So, for fractions, two of the biggest things that we need to remember about fractions before we start drawing them or anything like that is, what are fractions? So fractions are when we are partitioning a whole thing, and in fourth grade, it'll be a whole group of things, into equal parts. So if you look at these two drawings here, one of them represents fractions and one does not. They both have two parts, 1, 2, 1, 2, but only one of them has two equal parts. So this is the only one where we could say it's partitioned into halves. This one just has two parts, but they are not equal, so they do not represent fractions. Also, another important thing to remember is sometimes instead of drawing fractions, we use a number representation. So we need to be very careful with remembering what the two parts in the numerical representation of a fraction means. So the top part is the number of parts that you're using in some way. So it could be the number that you're shading in, or it could be the number that you're leaving blank. It could be the amount of pieces that were eaten out of the pizza, or the amount of the brownie that got peanuts in it, whatever it is. The bottom number, that denominator, is the number of total parts. Okay, and we're going to practice that a few times here. So we used three basic models to show fractions here in third grade. We used rectangles, circles, and number lines. So if we look here, we see that one of the four parts are shaded. So here's one, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4. But one of the four is shaded. So we would write 1/4 is shaded. Now, if someone asked you how much is not shaded, you would write 3/4. So it depends on the question. One of the four is shaded, three of the four parts are not shaded. All right? Let's look here at this circle one. So how many total parts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 parts. 1, 2, 3. 3 of the 8 are shaded. Or you could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 8 are not shaded. Now, I will tell you the two biggest mistakes I see in writing fractions is sometimes people accidentally write it upside down. They might write 4/1 instead of 1/4, or they might write 4/3. So we want to be careful with that. The other mistake I sometimes see is people might write 3/5 because they're saying 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3/5. But remember, there aren't 5 parts. It's not 3 of the 5 are shaded, it's 3 of the 8. And really quickly, I want to tell you another way to show 3/8. So 3/8 is by taking 1/8 plus this 1/8 plus this 1/8, and it's equal to 3/8. This is called a unit fraction equation. You are adding unit by unit. Now, one mistake that I see is sometimes people say 1/8, 2/8, 3/8 and add those together. But if you add 1/8 plus 2/8 plus 3/8, you actually end up with 6/8, and that's not what we have here. It's 1 by 1, we're adding them together. All right, and our last model that we used in third grade was the number line. So this is where you need to be careful. Remember, don't count the lines 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Remember, it's how many parts. 4 parts, 8 parts. This has 1, 2, 3 parts. And this dot, I'm hopping 1, 2. I could have hopped 3, but I only hopped 2 of the 3 parts for this number line diagram. All right, so rectangles, circles, and number lines are 3 of the main ways that we use to represent fractions. Now, I want to come over here and remind you of one other type of model that we used rectangles, circles, and number lines for. So these are showing fractions that are greater than 1. So here I have this is partitioned into fourths, and this is into fourths. Do you see that? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Since they're different sections, we don't add them together to say 8. We say fourths here and fourths here. And how many are shaded in? 5 fourths. So this is where, if you think about it, they're broken into 4 parts, and we're using 5 of them, and that means we're using more than one whole. A whole has 4 parts, and we're using more than that, so that's why this makes sense. Now, when you're in 4th grade, you'll learn another way to represent this fraction, but one mistake that I see is I a lot of times see people say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But that means that our whole was broken into 8 parts. It's in 4 parts, so be careful with that one. Here's another practice. So if I notice, they're both broken into thirds. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thirds. I'm using more parts than are in one whole, so that's why there's more than one shaded. Be careful though, it's not 5/6. The circles aren't broken into 6 parts, so be careful there. And then lastly, what it would look like on the number line is, I gotta be careful. I'm going from 0 to 2. It's just like I have 2 holes, 2 holes, 2 holes, and they're both broken into halves. Look, I could even draw a rectangle on top. Do you see that? Half and half. So if I want to hop to right here, it would be 1, 2, 3 halves. And I hopped more than one whole. I hopped 3 of the halves. All right, so remember these kind of 4 important things when you're doing fractions this week. Got to be equal parts. The top number is how many parts you're using in some way. And the bottom part is the number of total parts that that whole is broken into. These are our 3 models, and we can use them for fractions that are less than 1 or greater than 1. All right, so keep those in mind as you are working this week.